Oh, are the Sixers able to bounce back this season and not only improve from that 24-win season a season ago, but are they able to simply bounce back and shock the Eastern Conference? Welcome to the PHLY Sixers podcast, coming to you live from the Xfinity Lounge with Derek, Kyle, and Devon. Bree is producing. She's the president of basketball operations. And we're presented by our good friends from Rothman Orthopedics. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY. And for Kyle, how many years?
48 straight years, Devon.
Visit your local Ford store. It's a Friday, and we're previewing the team as we get closer to the start again of Media Day, then training camp, and then the preseason game. Now 13 days away as they take on the Knicks October 2nd in Abu Dhabi. Yes, we have to talk about, can they be the surprise team in the Eastern Conference? Every year it happens. Somebody comes out of nowhere in each conference. Can the East see the Sixers bounce back and be that surprise team? We have to talk about later on Trae Young versus Patrick Beverley. We have to. And we'll get to our... the biggest takeaway. We'll get to
all I can do is shake my head at that whole thing. It's just such
news and notes and so much more here on this Friday. But Derek, as we look at this team and we see so many photos of the guys, we'll get to Joel Embiid a little bit later in our biggest takeaway. But as we see, seems like some good energy right now in the building for every team as they get ready
the
for
WWE belts out. They're flexing.
Absolutely.
They're smiling.
Absolutely.
All before that big gut punch comes at some point.
But the good feelings are there right now, at least. And with the good feelings being there right now, Detroit was a shocker last season. Kyle was right, I think, until the injuries happened, where Orlando was going to be that team that kind of catapulted into that.
Hold on. As much as I like to take credit for being right, I'll never do I was right until this happened.
No,
that's just an elaborate way of saying.
I was right until the season played out.
I was right until I was wrong.
You didn't say it. I said it. I think you were right.
I know, but I'm saying I won't take any credit when the credit was not earned. Maybe I'll be ahead of the curve on the Magic, but time will tell.
I think you were right. A season ago. I think you were right with it.
I think I might have been a year ahead of the curve, too.
You might have been, yeah, absolutely. But with it, though, there's a surprise team every year. And Detroit was that team a season ago for the Eastern Conference. And the West teams, we kind of figured most of those teams would be right there in the mix. And albeit the Sixers had if they are able to bounce back, it was a gap year because of the injuries and all that stuff. And we know injuries are typically the first thing in every professional sport that you look at that could prevent you from being successful. We'll talk about that, obviously. But are they, because of the roster, because they have addressed some things with the roster where they are younger, if the gap year is the gap year and they landed them a number 3 overall pick, they have VJ Edgecombe, could they possibly be the team that is the not Orlando Magic, Atlanta Hawks surprise team in the Eastern Conference this season?
Well, those predictions from last year are proof that if you stick to your convictions long enough, you will eventually be right. You're never wrong. You're just not right.
The arc of the
yet.
universe bends toward our predictions at some point.
No, and look, I know you sort of mentioned like outside of injuries, but there is no outside of injuries because if there's one injury that goes your way, all of a sudden, you're a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference. Or you at least have the talent to be there. We can talk about the additions of Jared McCain, who I know he played last year, 23 games, but you're basically getting a new player or an additional player on your roster that you barely used alongside of Joel Embiid that has a skill set that fits really, really well, at least conceptually. He has to sort of learn the ins and outs of that two-man game, but conceptually that's a real good piece to put along Joel Embiid. You got VJ Edgecombe, who we're all excited to watch play. You've got all these different kinds of things that I think could add to the excitement of this season, but all it takes is one, Joel Embiid's knee to cooperate, and you are catapulted right back up to the top. So yeah, they certainly have the talent to be a surprise team. I guess there's sort of like a secondary question of could they be a surprise team even without a huge contribution from Joel Embiid? And I think they can be a good team without Joel Embiid being a significant force in the league again. But it is really impossible to not be like, well, we got to start this conversation off with injuries because you've got Joel Embiid and all the knee stuff. You've got 35-year-old Paul George and all that he's gone through. and you've got Tyrese Maxey, who's a little under the radar because theoretically he's been more healthy of late than those two, but he still missed a significant portion of the game. By the end of the year, couldn't grip a basketball, which gets a little bit shoved
It makes
under
it a
the
little
rug.
difficult to play basketball.
It does. So yes, I certainly think, look, the last time we saw Joel Embiid healthy, this show was like glowing over how incredible the Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid 2-man game looked. Fundamentally, that has not changed. I think Tyrese Maxey is such a good piece and such a good fit, and their skill sets are so synergistic that, yeah, there's talent that can work. And Paul George, for all of his faults, and we had a show a couple weeks ago where like I really questioned whether or not he can. I stopped myself. Does that count? I don't think that counts. I stopped myself.
That's like a $50.
Where he can, and honestly, it wasn't even the right word. I was saying the wrong word. Where he can scale up into being that first option for a week or two at a time. But I do still have a lot of confidence he can be that third option. It's on both sides of the floor. He might not be a stopper on defense anymore. I think he can be a real valuable piece on defense. I don't think he's going to be a first option on offense. I think he can be a real valuable piece on offense. It really does. Like, I think, and this is why, like, reacting to last year, if Joel Embiid's healthy, then everything just falls into place and makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, you can't start any conversation about this team having a deep playoff run, successful season, any of that without acknowledging health is the biggest variable. And while that's obviously the case for any team, right? We've seen Boston this offseason, I should say, stripped a lot of their team down because of the Jason Tatum injury, right? The Pacers are going through a retool year because of the Tyrese Halliburton. And that's the team that won the East back-to-back years, right? Those two teams. One of them won the title. The other one got to Game 7 against an elite OKC team, right? So obviously injuries impact everyone, but you have to bring it up with the Sixers because this is a repeat offense problem, right? This is Joel Embiid year after year. We just have to shrug our shoulders and say, we don't know what we're going to get out of this guy this year. You look at Paul George, and he timed his one healthiest season in recent memory right before he arrived in Philadelphia, and then regressed back toward the mean and dealt with injuries basically from beginning to end of his season. So they, more than most teams in the league, in fact, probably more than any team in the league, are dependent on better luck with injuries. And in a weird way, it's good because you could get into this doomer mindset and say, like, well, they're just going to get hurt again and they sucked last year and all that. But like, one thing you take solace in is we don't even know how good the trio of Maxey, George, and Embiid are together because there was never any kind of reasonable time for them to get on the floor, right? We came out of the offseason understanding the risk of signing Paul George, but feeling optimistic about, hey, the fit between these three is a hand in glove, balance each other out. This guy's strengths match with this guy's strengths, and he covers for his weaknesses, and so on and so forth. And we never got to see that play out on a larger scale, right? Over the course of like 15 to 20 games where they're all playing every night or at least close to every night. And even the role players are in and out. When you're down to lineups where we had to watch Reggie Jackson and Kyle Lowry play in the backcourt together, and weirdly enough, those lineups kind of worked from time to time. But when you're that deep in the bench and you're calling on those guys to save your season after it's already gone downhill, that ultimately says it all. And so all of it starts with, if you keep Joel upright, if you keep Paul relatively healthy, it just gives everyone else a better, more stable platform to succeed. We're all eventually going to talk about, hey, how good is Jared McCain going to be in year 2 and coming off that injury? How quickly can VJ Edgecombe get up to speed? Where's Adem Bona at? What does the second year look like for Justin Edwards? But those guys are under much less pressure if you have a guy who's like a walking 30-point game, right? A guy who is a rim protector that can cover up the weaknesses or just the misreads, the missed rotations of other guys because he's so big and so impactful at the rim. And if you have two different guys on top of Maxey that can just simply bail out a possession, right? Late clock, 4 to 6 seconds left. Ball ends up in Joel Embiid's hands. Ball ends up in Paul George's hands, and they got to get to it and get a shot off. Like, you feel a lot better about that than when you're passing on that responsibility to like Lonnie Walker and some of these guys who are coming in the door at the end of the year. It's just not fair to expect role players and young players to carry the team. And so if you have those vets who have seen so much, who have played so many games, who have faced every coverage there is to face, if you have them to see the young guys through those moments, you allow those young guys to slowly accumulate all the experience they need, all the just know-how they need. So when the games get important and you hit that second half of the year, you hit the playoffs, you've brought them along without having to rely on them to win games all the time. And that's the real power of having Joel and Paul healthy, is allowing that developmental curve to be the exact curve you want it to be, instead of just, here are the keys, go figure it out.
Yeah. No, and you mentioned something about how like they've barely played together, they've barely had a chance to form any chemistry. And I'm gonna do this, and I'm not just trying to make a joke here, but I'm gonna bring it back to our profession. Remember when you didn't work for 3 months?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
No, it's not gonna be a joke. I mean, it's a little bit of a joke to start it off with. But remember when you came back and you're like, well, I didn't want to do too much. I didn't want to take control of the show too much because they had built some kind of chemistry. That was ridiculous because you have, I don't know if, have you spoken more in your life than Kyle has? I don't know about that. You've definitely spoken professionally more than Kyle. You've definitely spoken
professionally
on the air.
For sure.
On the
Overall,
air.
I probably am in the lead.
You've definitely spoken on the air to an audience like 10 times more than both Kyle and I combined. And even with that, you know, you're kind of like tiptoeing around a little bit for the first couple of weeks. It took some time for everybody to sort of figure out their role, even though you had been doing this for decades. They are sort of in that like first week of you coming backstage. Yeah, they might have played, 14 games together, something like that. And I think they had a barely positive net rating on the floor. They never looked like they were a dominant trio, but we really don't have all that much information about them because they never got out of that like introductory, like feeling each other out kind of phase. So could they be significantly better than they were last year? Yes, of course. And that starts by just playing consistently alongside of each other.
And that's where them being like, when we see these photos and all, it's unfortunate that Paul George is dealing with whatever that knee injury is. Joel Embiid, the same thing. They're all out there on the floor. We don't know to what extent, except for the little bit of the 5 seconds that we saw in the one clip for Embiid, and still photo shots for Paul George. But it is important for them to have something going on within the building where they are all there. It's video work that you can just simply go through. Mm-hmm. It's not a lot of possessions that they need to look through to find out where they had to dive through all kinds of tape and see what was going on. But with it, what worked, what didn't work, how can we make sure that this stuff looks good on when we are all able to play on the same floor at the same time and go out there and do that. And that's why when we did start to talk about when Kyle and I were here for the schedule release and Derek was able to come back, we talked about they have to stack wins. Mm-hmm. Those are the things that are important there are going to be mistakes because of everything that you both just laid out. But if the schedule is somewhat in your favor a little bit, where they're winnable games, you have to take advantage of that, because when you do start to click, then what? Then you're in the meat of the season and you're in the meat of your schedule, and they're going to be tougher games, but those things are going to be important. So that taking their time and trying to not mess up whatever cohesion and chemistry that was there for, let's say, Maxey and George a season ago, and Maxey and Embiid for all those years where George was trying to do it, that film is important now. And just simply being in the gym now that they're all here in Philadelphia together, that stuff is important. It could still take a while. It may still take a while just because they don't have real live action possessions to go off of. But you take what you can get for at least right now, and most certainly hope that it works out when they do finally step on the floor. And look, if we don't think all three of them are going to play in the playoffs, it's just one more thing all over again of they're not out there. That we have to wait until Boston to see if they're all out there together that 22nd of October to see what it looks like. And that part, that's just all of us now just waiting in the guessing game of what it's going to look like. They might go into Boston, beat Boston 105 to 96, and we're like, that wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. A couple of days off, home opener against Charlotte. A few days later on that Saturday night, get a second win, and everybody's feeling good about what things look like there. That's where the whole thing of shocking the Eastern Conference, and it's not necessarily, look, when we say shock the East, I don't think any of us are saying win the Eastern Conference. It's just busting up the party a little bit where you're in that mix with Miami and Boston and Milwaukee on the back end, maybe even Detroit, but Detroit's a little bit ahead of you because of what they did a season ago. But busting up and crashing that party a little bit to get back to where you were before these injuries really just ravaged your season ago. So that's where it is right now. And there are a number of other things that we're going to talk about on the other side with this. And we will, because there's so much that has to go right. But there are other things that are going kind of in their favor around the Eastern Conference that helps them out to be back in that position maybe sooner rather than later.
And just one quick thing, Devon, before we get to an intermission here. Think of something as simple as, like, everyone thinks about, all right, what are the plays that you run, or what is the synergy like between these guys, right? Like the Paul and Joel plays, the Tyrese and Paul plays, like whatever you get into the playbook and like, here are our staple stuff we run with these guys. But even stuff that's as simple as, how do you sub the team? Like, how do you come up with a rotation when you can't get these guys on the floor for like 4 or 5 straight games, right? It becomes impossible because you're having to judge it as like, all right, I don't know what works. I think this is what is going to work based on what I see in practice or maybe in some preseason stuff, but I don't know. And then you have to figure out, all right, how much of it is it's the opponent, it's a bad matchup for how we subbed it, right? Because when they've been at their best, it's been, okay, these are the Maxey minutes, right? Maxey and these guys. And then it's the Joel lineup. And then it's like when James Harden was here, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was James and George Niang and D House. And like there was like a pretty regular group. Even Paul Reed like figured out his role alongside James Harden. And if you can't figure out these combinations that work, you're just like grasping at, well, these are like the 9 guys I have available to play, so they all have to play, and we're going to play them as many minutes as we can. You just don't get to experiment at all. You don't get to see any kind of creativity from a pure lineup perspective, right? It just becomes, these are the guys I know are going to be able to play, so I'm putting them out there every night, and I'm going to hope that they figure it out. So that gives, we've been critical of the coaching staff, right, for what they did or did not do last year. But that would be a big help for them to just have some semblance of stability so that you're not going into the locker room every night looking at the sheet and being like, how the hell do I put together a coherent rotation using these guys? Like that, at a very basic level, that's what health does for you. It allows you to figure out all your best stuff long before you get to the playoffs.
All right, let's take our first pause here. When we come back, we'll get to our, just show you talk a little bit about the big fella, just a little more here as we talk about a big deal that's been happening all week, courtesy of the Philadelphia 76ers and Joel Embiid. We'll do that right here on this Friday as we hang out with you. Beautiful day outside. And we get to talk about some Sixers basketball in a positive way here, right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast, presented by our good friends from, that would be Rothman and Ford.
Every now and then, you got a friend who wants to show off his massive new TV, 75 inches, looks beautiful, deep blacks, but the stream is lagging, the stream is buffering. It's a complete disaster. See, if you call yourself a basketball fan, you have to have Xfinity. It's the ultimate sports destination where I can find the best games and my favorite teams all in one place. And the way that you watch those games, it's next level. I've got all the action right in my living room, plus Xfinity's best picture and sound with enhanced 4K. It's so clear that it feels like I'm in the arena. Sometimes you can even have 4 games going at once just to try to keep up with everything. Xfinity lets you do that. On top of that, I get real-time notifications and live stats right on my TV. It's the best seat in my house every time. Next game day, make sure that big fan isn't a big fail. Learn more at Xfinity.com. Xfinity, imagine that. Restrictions apply. Multi-view requires Xfinity 4K capable TV box.
And of course, guys, we also have to talk about the legendary Ford F-Series, the best-selling truck in America for 48 straight years. That is excellence. That's also toughness, right? Work-ready toughness. But with modern day tech and luxury. You have 6 different powertrain options with the F-150, including a hybrid and a fully electric Lightning model. No matter what model you get, it has best-in-class towing that goes up to 14,000 pounds, depending on the configuration. You also have the military-grade aluminum alloy body. That's great because you're going to take this truck everywhere, right? You're hauling stuff around, whether that's for work, for pleasure, for hauling stuff down to the beach, going on a trip, whatever you might be doing. You can get everything where it needs to be with the Ford F-150. Of course, you got all the bells and whistles inside too, right? You got the max recline seats, 180 degrees of recline. You could take a nap in those bad boys if you really want to. An interior work surface for a desk if you need it. All the different drive modes, an off-road package, regular Super Cab, Super Crew options, plus bed lengths to fit your needs. For more information, visit your local Ford store.
Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers podcast here live from the Xfinity Lounge. And we need to talk about our sale that's going through Sunday night. The merchandise, everybody. You got to go take advantage of the All City and the PHLY gear that's on sale. 20% off All City warehouse sale and up to 85% off. You can take advantage of that through Sunday night, 11:59. Going into Monday. If you want to get, you'd be like, you know what? I've been meaning to get that shirt and I keep forgetting to do so, or that hoodie as it's the fall season now, or maybe that hat. Do it now. Do it. Go for it right now at store.allcitynetwork.com, or you can just simply go to allphly.com, hit the merch button and drop down, go to the PHLY gear, bang, right there. Take advantage of t-shirt that Derek has on, or the t-shirt that Kyle has on right now. I'm the only one right here with no
slacker.
I am.
We don't
slacking.
sell that bucket hat?
Don't sell the bucket hat, unfortunately.
Calling him the LL Cool Devon over there in the chat.
Make sure you go and get your gear right now through Sunday night. Store.allcitynetwork.com and allphly.com. Hit the merch area there and go get your gear. All right, let's talk about the big takeaway. As in our first segment, we're discussing everything. Big takeaway presented by Xfinity. Bree, a lot of photos being thrown out there this week, and this one courtesy of the Sixers on Instagram. Another Joel Embiid photo. This time, just simply got the cutoff shirt on, man, and he's in the back of the team photo, but we talked about him looking slimmer and a little more fit, got the smile on his face in that one, Derek. Looking lively in the gym right now.
Yeah, and look, this is like, look, it's just a picture. We're not
Joel
there.
being like hidden in the back of the one photo is killing me, by the way.
That's
looking
so
like
him.
the little kid on his tiptoes.
That's so him.
I think this is probably getting pretty close to Joel Embiid's like ideal playing weight. Now, you might want him trimmer now just to put less weight on that knee. But like if you would have told me when he was like 24, 25, what's the ideal version of Joel Embiid, I think this is probably pretty close. He's still big enough he can bully you. He's putting a little bit less pressure on that knee. You know, certainly if you go back, it always blows my mind, but you go back and look at him at like Kansas, his athleticism and how quickly he got off the floor. Now, look, eventually he was always going to bulk up and get stronger, and he's obviously going to lose a lot of the athleticism with those lower body injuries. But like his athleticism was absolutely insane. And I think if you could like rewind his career, this is probably about what you would want Joel Embiid to look like, just with 2 functional knees and without all the other concerns. So I give him a lot of credit for getting to where he goes. And we've mentioned this time and time again. It might not matter. Like it might just be real tough for that knee to hold up over the grind of a season. But I give him credit for doing almost everything he could possibly do to get to a good place.
I'm also loving the VJ WWE belt, and we were discussing before the show. We have no idea exactly what that belt is for. They obviously have the big energy chain that hangs in the arena, and that's for guys that really get after it in the post-game weight lift session that they go through, right? I'm sure there's something related to whether it's scrimmages, whether it's a weight room thing, something that's going on connected to that. But I just like what I'm seeing, right? And I know it's easy to take a bunch of still images from a practice session no one was part of and be like, boy, the vibes are astronomically great, right? Like I don't get swept up in all that, because there have been plenty of moments like these in the past where we would say, hey, the vibes look great. And then you see him take the floor and it's like, product still sucks. So,
we should go back to the Sixers account at the start of that 2019-20 season.
Oh, people were
Just
loving
a reminder that the vibes through still images a week before camp.
Well,
might
and
not.
do you remember all the like, have fun in your retirement home in Miami, Jimmy Butler? How'd that one work out? But as we keep saying, right, I love seeing all these guys there, all these guys participating, including Joel. And Joel's the one that really jumps out, right? Because he typically is, and it's been a good thing, but he's typically on his own schedule and his own plan, his own path, because he's working with trainers. He's trying to add, hey, this year I'm adding the elbow jumper face-up game. And Devon talked yesterday about wanting to see, you want the jump hook, right? You want that quick
Little baby
6-7 foot baby hook around the basket and a little more post play, right? And so a lot of his off seasons typically are spent elsewhere in LA, in different gyms around the country, working on his own game. And I know this is the time that they all report, but it's still nice to see them working together, getting that sweat equity in early, because we talk about it all the time. What happens when you go through a rough stretch in the middle of the season? What happens when things are not going your way, and maybe you lost close games that it's just that, hey, ball bounced the wrong way and it's not necessarily anybody's fault, but it's easier to find that commonality and to stay together in those moments if all those guys can look around and say, hey, in early September and late August, when there was no media here, there were no people here keeping up with us every day, we were all doing this and trying to build this together, right? So I think these moments are important. I certainly think the preseason and camp and all that is important as well. And I'm glad to see that it's full, other than Quentin Grimes, obvious exception here, but I love the full attendance. I love what we're seeing from there. Tyrese Maxey yelling in one of these photos here.
Paul George
getting after
it.
Paul George getting a shot up, also noteworthy, because the last time we saw him, it was just an incline bench session for him. So like what I'm seeing, hoping that it eventually translates to some positive results.
So they're in the lab, as the Sixers tell us on social media. And with them being in the lab, we've seen Joel with the 5-second video that we got a full show out of, and everybody was excited about, just to simply talk about what that might look like with no sleeve, no brace on that knee. And Aaron says, of course, noticeable that they don't show the knee again, with some laughing emojis. Very true, but still, that being said, the VJ Edgecombe, Kyle, that one that you talked about with Embiid, where you can clearly tell he's telling the young guy something, teaching him about whatever being on the floor. And just photos over the last week, and even today, something as small as him just smiling the way that he is in the photo. It's small, but they're in the gym. Everybody's feeling
small
good
things
right now.
add up into bigger things.
100%. Everything adds up to what you hopefully believe it could be, which we're talking about, shocking the Eastern Conference and getting back maybe somewhere in that top 4, top 5, where you're not in the play-in, and just making the best of the situation. And right now, minus Quentin Grimes being in the gym, it seems like everybody's in there. And that's what you want to see. It's going on around every city, all the 29 other NBA teams. But obviously we focus on this one, and it's really good to see them in there. And when we were questioning, has he touched the basketball? Has he been on the basketball floor? Has he had any basketball sneakers on? We've seen now for a bit that he has been in the gym. We don't know how long it has actually been, but to see these things, to see some still shots and that one action shot, it just gives people a little hope. You see it all up and down our chat here of Val talking about, I think I need to call my season ticket rep back. And, they're pulling me back in. Everybody's saying these things.
Now look, don't buy any tickets based on us, because I don't want that kind of responsibility.
But
if it goes
It's
sideways,
based on those photos.
But I have said, like, if you can't get optimistic around this time of year, I don't know what you're doing following a team
that's
in the
fine.
first
I
place.
just don't want a
right?
class action lawsuit because they got excited about the team. They can
There's a
inflict some
difference.
serious harm here. That's all I'm saying.
I'm with you. I'm not telling anybody to buy tickets. I'm just saying, if you can't get excited for a new year and new beginnings and maybe better health and the young guys, and
New basketball court.
I would
with the
find
old
hobbies that are
jerseys.
more conducive to preserving your mental health.
Yeah.
And I think the way that maybe everyone will preserve their mental health this year is also one of our big keys or big takeaways, Devon, which is they need the young guys to be good right away, right?
They
This
do.
This is a team that is reliant on guys who are 19, 20, 22, 24 in that age band being ahead of the age curve to some extent, right? Because now they're not battling with Caleb Martin for minutes. They're not battling with a bunch of vets who like, all right, that guy's a starter or that guy's like a definite seventh, eighth man. There are not many examples of older players on the roster who are actually expected to play and be in the rotation, right? Like you have Lowry. We're not expecting him to have much of a role. Maybe Eric Gordon is an end of the bench guy. I know we've talked about Drummond, and Derek is already preemptively rolling his eyes at the idea that he might play. But like for the most part, it's going to be the youth. It's going to be Justin Edwards. It's going to be VJ Edgecombe. It's going to be Jared McCain. And even Quentin Grimes is in this group when he eventually signs his deal, right? So what happens with all these guys? How quickly do they get acclimated? And honestly, a big thing we really haven't discussed all that much this offseason, but is a huge key. What does Jared McCain look like coming off this injury? Because it's a 6-month timeline to just get back out on the floor. And while it happened for him, while he had more time to get in the gym, get reps in, get up to game shape instead of like getting thrown in the middle of the season, so that ends up working out okay. We just don't know what he's going to look like. It's not that he was a especially dynamic, explosive athlete before, but a guy at his size, if you lose a little or if you're a little bit slow to get going, that could have a big impact on his game. So that's a pretty big outstanding question tied into all this other stuff just about how good will they be?
Joel Embiid has for many years been able to do well. He's had some support from Jimmy Butler, JJ Redick, James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, Ben Simmons over the years and all. Now, just as much as you said they need the Sixers young guys to really step up, he might, for the first time in his career, also need those young guys and trust those young guys that will help him become the player that whoever he is this year, and just getting back to a player versus what we saw a season ago, which was somebody that we didn't recognize that player.
Yeah.
And he is going to need those young guys this year. Maybe not as much as we are talking about it right now, but at some point we're going to be doing post-game shows where we're saying, man, Joel in that pass and trusting Jared McCain on that shot or that cutting ability, that screen that he had to set right there, where in the past Joel did this one thing, but he allowed VJ Edgecombe to do this thing here to help really seal that basketball game.
Yeah, and look, if we're going to kind of like shift the discussion a little bit over to the young kids, like I think obviously we all have a lot of long-term intrigue in VJ and think VJ could and should be the better player long-term than Jared. Kyle pointed out yesterday that the team certainly talks about VJ in a little bit of a different light than they do Jared, put a little more of the organizational foundation or future foundation on his shoulders. But I think if you're just talking about this year, like who has a chance to like meaningfully move the direction of the team this year, I think you make a very strong case that Jared has a higher chance of doing that than VJ. And part of that is just like we've seen Jared, his game, specifically his offensive game, is more refined, more developed, more ready to contribute at an NBA level. And part of it is that his skill set just fits so perfectly with Joel Embiid. And look, any version of this season where the Sixers are a contender, Joel Embiid is on the court and playing regularly. And of those two, Jared McCain just has a way of amplifying what Joel Embiid does and really building off of his gravity and building off of his skill set in a way that very few players on this team do. And the combination of what he was able to show last year, largely with Joel Embiid off the bench or off the floor, and the way that he was able to show more on-ball stuff than we had. Now you then mix in what should be a perfect match skill set-wise with your best player. If there is, and I think like my confidence level of Jared McCain being a positive contributor this year is really, really high. And if he's able to play and build some real chemistry alongside of Joel Embiid, it could be exceptionally high. And so, like I said, any season where they outperform their expectations, Joel Embiid is going to be on the floor and relatively dominant. And any season where Joel Embiid is on the floor and dominant, I think Jared McCain has a chance to really, really shine.
All right, that's the big takeaway presented by Xfinity. Make sure you go check out Xfinity. Get in there, get it done. Sign up with Xfinity because you don't want to get caught being that friend that Derek always talks about, saying how you have that great internet to watch the game, invite you over for the big game this weekend, and instead you don't. It's Xfinity. where you can learn more. All right, when we come back, we keep this conversation rolling. We'll also transition over to the feud going on, media feud. Trae Young and Pat Beverly. What is going on over there?
Thought it was
Some
me
news
and
and
Devon
notes
because of that joke.
a little bit later. We'll do that when we get back right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast, live from the Xfinity Lounge.
And look, guys, it is about to get cold. It's about to get rainy. It's about to get snowy not too long from now, which means all of those home repair projects you need to get started on because you are running out of daylight, quite literally. And if you've got a bunch to work on, Ace Hardware Home Services is a place you want to go. If you've got an outlet that you said you would fix last summer at Ace Hardware Home Services, they've got the person to fix that because now they're not just the helpful hardware folks, they're also the helpful home service and repair folks. From plumbing and electrical to heating and cooling, they've got the trusted pros to keep your home humming all year long. Ace Hardware Home Services. They're bringing the helpful home, the helpful you love from the store now to your front door, from Philly and to the Jersey Shore. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get you started on your next project.
And as you do that, maybe you're doing all that work, and that's why you have to call that company because you try to do a little bit too much while trying to fix those repairs at home, and you tweak some things. And you need to get those checked out. You don't want to take too long. You don't want to procrastinate. You want to address it sooner rather than later because it is going to start getting colder, and you need to go to Rothman Orthopedics to do that. Whether it's simply going and getting an MRI or an X-ray, whatever it needs to be done, and ultimately having some PT and all those things that come along with it, some orthotics and bracing. That's all through Rothman Orthopedics. I, again, am one that is a walking billboard for Rothman Orthopedics because of my ACL and my Achilles, but they got me back on track, and they can do the same for you if things are slowing you down from the summer as we head into the fall. Tough summer. You enjoyed yourself, but you ignored those injuries. Don't ignore those any longer. If pain is slowing you down this season, take that first step. Head to rothmanortho.com/PHLY to learn more. It's Rothman Orthopedics. Your fall now, your mobility, their mission. All right, welcome back to the PHLY Sixers podcast presented by Rothman and Ford. And we have to tell you about Big Brothers, Big Sisters. It's our last day to share with you about the donations for this week. We'll let you know that once again, you can check out as we celebrate Big Brothers, Big Sisters month. It's the month of giving. And all week, we've been focusing on the donations. And we still like for you to sign up to become a big, but we're still trying to reach that goal also of $50,000. So if you have it, you're available, got paid today, maybe you can share some of those funds, whatever you can give to become a big part of the Big Brothers, Big Sisters mentor movement as a big, but also just if you can't do that, donating what you can to help out because Big Brothers, Big Sisters has been a significant thought leader in mentorship and continues to evolve in its impact and significance. 20 million BBS alumni worldwide. Stories make up the foundation of Big Brothers, Big Sisters, impact and longevity. And you can join in as well by being a big, but also by saying, you know what? I donated. I helped out with what I could and spreading the word to do the same. So if you are willing to do that, you can do that on our YouTube page right now. Going down, scroll just a little bit, you'll see the Donate Now button. Hit that, bang, make whatever donation you can, or go to bbbs.org to do the same. Once again, bbbs.org. Make your donation. Feel good going into the weekend, donating whatever you could, and we really appreciate it. All right, welcome back here on the show, talking about the young guys. Did you want to follow up on that McCain thing that Derek talked about?
Well, I think it's a good point from Derek, especially because when you think about it, not to say that they're the exact same player or all that closest players, but in theory, McCain's presence means you can have the two-man game, dribble handoff, dynamic shooting combo play with Joel anytime he is on the floor, right? Because let's say, just in theory, Maxey is going to be on his own for minutes, and those will be Joel gets a rest. It's Maxey time. But when Maxey gets his rest, a lot of the time you're going to want Joel to be on the floor, right? And so to be able to substitute someone like Jared in, where he's a dynamic shooting threat himself, he showed the just the little fundamental mechanics, right? Like the footwork and the timing and all the things you need to run that successful 2-man game on the perimeter with Joel, showed that in the short bursts we saw the two of them last year. It's a very powerful thing to put a guy like McCain in those minutes, right? Where there have been times throughout Joel's career where he's in those minutes and it's like, hey, it's Raul Neto running the point, right? Or like it's same year, Alec Burks or like whoever. And instead, in this instance, you're getting a guy who's like a future pillar of the franchise type player, one of the great shooters on the team, and a guy who can also get downhill better than we thought, who also has been a more prolific playmaker than we expected him to be. So yeah, I think Jared's offensive role is crystal clear, right? And his value there is crystal clear. Obviously, I tend to agree with I have higher expectations for VJ over the long term, like view him as more of the true building block of the franchise. But it's also, his first year. He's got to go take his lumps. He's got to figure out game speed and the playbook and where his role is, how they're going to use him, quite frankly. I'm just really excited to watch both of those guys in all the different ways they're used. And as they go, I think this team will go, right? Because as long as you get reasonable health from Joel, PG, and Maxey, we kind of know what they're bringing to the table. VJ and Jared specifically, the range of outcomes is wide. And I'm excited to see exactly how that plays out.
And it is worth pointing out, like in those images that the Sixers shared, Jared was wearing a jersey. So it looks like he's scrimmaging right now.
Yeah.
Not just going through workouts, but actually part of the scrimmages that are going on, which is a great sign. Because like Kyle mentioned, he that was a 6-month recovery timeline. That took some time. And when we talked to him,
which was
Summer
good in
League,
a weird way, right?
Yeah.
Because it means they were able to repair it, and that's better for the long-term health of the knee. But it is a longer recovery time.
And
period.
the last time we ran into him in Vegas, he was not at that point yet. So it's good to get confirmation that he is.
Yep. All right. Anything else that stands out for you guys of what they can do to crash the party in the Eastern Conference? Maybe get back into that top 4, top 6, and not really have to worry about the play-in. Anything else stand out?
Well, there are a couple things. This is more down the road, but I do think there's going to need to be a fairly significant trade at some point, right? Because as much as I would like to believe that the triumvirate they have at the top, plus all these young guys, could just gel and come together and make things happen, I do think they're probably one high-level vet away. And I don't mean not like a max player. I'm talking about like a high-level role player, like a Nick Batum equivalent player. I think if they were to get a guy like that before the deadline, you go from, this is a potentially fun playoff team, but maybe a team that is a year or two away from all the guys being ready enough to compete, to, this team could do some potential damage in the playoffs. This team could get to a conference finals and maybe just go on a crazy run through the playoffs to emerge out of the East, right? Because you just can't count on young guys in the playoffs. They have not gone through it before. It is officiated differently. It's way more physical. The environments are more hostile. Like there are all kinds of factors. Like you're scouted more closely, right? So maybe something that works in game 1 and game 2 for you and has worked all year, that opponent might take that away by games 3 and 4, right? And so you're not going to go into the playoffs and say 3 or 4 of our guys are 20 and 21 and 22 and are in like major roles, and you're going to beat teams that's not the case, right? That consist of 27, 28, 29, 30-year-old guys who've been through the ringer, who've gone on these deep runs, right? So I do think a major key is going to be, one, they have to be good enough to justify pushing some chips in. But once you get off to that hopefully good start, once you build the foundation, it's going to be on Daryl Morey to say, what do we need in terms of skill set, fit, age, experience, all that, and how do we make that happen? How do we add that to this team so that when you get to April and you get to May, it's not going to be on VJ Edgecombe to play 30 minutes and have a major, major impact role, or Jared McCain, same sort of deal, right? You want them to be in the mix. You want them all to be getting that experience and helping them out. But I do think they're going to need to add another, like in the ballpark of like a Kelly Oubre type player at least, right? A different sort of player than Kelly, because you need depth to get through the playoffs now. Depth is more important than it has ever been. And while they have a lot of guys who can grow into that depth, I don't think they'll be ready as soon as, mid-April, early May of next year.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's move over to a former Sixer here, as there's been some stuff going on social media and podcasts with Patrick Beverley, former Sixer. Trae Young, 4-time All-Star, led his team to the Eastern Conference Finals, as we know, in 2021 after knocking off the number 1 seeded Sixers. They've just been going back and forth. First, Patrick Beverley started it by some question about a pickup run that was happening and what Trae Young was doing, and all. Somehow, Trae Young had to respond to Patrick Beverley for what we know Patrick Beverley to do, which is he's on a podcast. He talks a lot. He talks a lot on the floor. He hasn't played, though, since May of 2024. Played overseas a season ago. Has not signed with the team this year. Has not announced his retirement either. There has been some things out there about his possible retirement. And, of course, he makes a big deal out of it more than anybody else. But he was fun while he was here. And there's far too many things that Patrick Beverley has said to show in the video. But we can show Trae Young, who responded in a shorter video. And in this particular clip, that he just basically said, come on, man.
Averaged 7 points and 2 is. I don't even know why I'm doing this.
Play it again, Bree.
You averaged 7 points and 2 is. I don't even know why I'm doing this.
That's crazy.
Well,
Incorrect.
What do you make of this feud here that's going on with Beverly and Young?
I mean, it is annoying when somebody who objectively accomplished way, way less than most of the people he talks trash about cannot shut up. And Pat Beverley, and look, that's why people listen to what he says. He cannot shut up, and he's willing to talk trash. That's his redeeming quality. It also understandably pisses people off who are way better than him. And this is also like a league where you can play great defense, and Trae Young's still going to score 1 billion points and dominate a game because offense is just inherently going to win a lot of battles. So it is tough when you are a very limited. Do you remember what he averaged in high school, Pat Beverley? I remember you bringing it up. It was a lot.
It's like 25 to 30 points a game, I'm pretty sure.
Good, yeah.
But for a guy who's so limited offensively, like there is just a fundamental cap because people, I don't care how good of a defender you are, especially when you're a short guard, people are going to have worked you over. It is, I don't very often side with Trae Young on much of anything. This is a guy who said the regular season was boring a couple years ago and then had a 500 record for like the next 4 years. But I understand where he's coming from. Like Pat Bev needs he's trying to be entertaining.
I'm really split on the whole thing because on
they're
the
both
one
kind of
hand,
annoying.
I'm not a Trae Young guy, and it's like he is the epitome of. He's a super talented player, right? And like puts up great numbers, but they also just like never really win that much.
Nobody really likes playing with him.
Nobody likes playing.
And Beverly said
the
that.
vibe is bad always. It's like guys just want to get out of there for whatever reason. And yes, he is maybe the single most destructive defender in the league. But also, like Pat Bev, what are you talking about, bro? Like, he is magnitudes better than you at wherever in your life, certainly as a professional, right? And Trae, to his credit, in a lot of big moments, is a guy who has never backed down from big shots and has hit big shots, has made big plays. I know it was at the expense of the Sixers, and he had up and down series, but got to a conference finals, and that team was certainly nothing special that was around him. So, yeah,
What's the one you said? Russell Westbrook was like,
Oh yeah, there's a meme that came out of it, but Russell Westbrook hates Patrick Beverley
from
in
the
part
Clipper
because he
days.
injured
Was
him
it
the
Clipper
one
days
year,
or
right?
Houston, yeah, Houston and the Clippers days. Yeah.
That was when he got hurt because Pat Bev like ran into his knee.
Yep,
I'm pretty
yep.
sure. And Russell Westbrook had a quote that was like, "Pat Bev trick y'all, man, just running around doing nothing." and there is a little bit of that, right? Because Pat Bev, for people who are nowhere near talented enough to make the league, they look at that guy and it's like, that's how I would play if I was in the NBA, right? I'd be annoying and I'd defend my butt off and blah, blah, blah. And meanwhile, it's like the guy's like, what, 6', 6'1", and guys are shooting over him. And like, so I'm not trying to disrespect Pat Bev, who obviously had a good enough career to stick in the league for quite a while, and he's still playing professionally. But I fall on the Trae Young side
So
of this
do I.
argument, and I don't normally ever fall on the Trae Young
Same.
side of
I
this
look-
argument.
I
think we
looked
all
up
agree on this
his senior year stats. You undersold it. 37.3 points
Oh
per game.
yeah, it's much
Yeah.
more than I
Yeah,
thought.
he's really good. And so I agree with you guys. So I don't have much to add except for the one thing I agree with Pat Beverley about is when he was on there, he was talking about, so what? I'm not allowed to talk about the NBA. I'm not allowed to give my opinion on the NBA. It's one thing when because he's not retired, and I'm sure he would take a contract if he felt like he was going to,
and that the league
get an
wasn't going to
opportunity.
suspend him for what he did right before he left.
That too
Yeah.
is that, he's technically still an active player, and nobody wants to hear that from an active player about another player unless you're just jawing back and forth on the floor or a post-game interview or something like that. But yeah, he can be criticized. He's been criticized a lot, Trae Young. Actually,
he takes plenty of heat.
he can be criticized, but it's just your message with what it's just, yeah, come on.
I think when you get to the point, and SB brought it up in the chat, Pat basically said that Trae can't talk to him because of what he's accomplished. It's like, Pat, I'm not being disrespectful. You have not accomplished more than Trae Young.
Got to an Eastern
while
Conference
he is a
Finals.
much better individual player.
4
right?
All-Stars.
We know about the Eastern Conference Finals, Devon. We were here.
Yeah,
Well, I'm
so
just
like,
saying.
No, I'm just saying it's a sore
you-
spot.
you
That's all I'm
can't be like,
saying.
"Whoa, you can't talk to me." It's what are you talking about? he's a
All-Star.
multi-time All-Star who is the best player on the team,
It's his
led a team to the
franchise.
conference
Yeah.
finals, right? So like, if he can't talk to you, you also can't talk to him. By that logic, it just makes no sense.
Makes no sense. All right. That was fun. Pat Bev always, just starting some things up, man. And we'll see what happens with him this year if he retires or plays overseas or gets a contract in the NBA. Shams, let's go to news and notes because we are news and notes, but let's go to Shams, what he said a little bit earlier. I think some Miami people actually had it first, but I couldn't remember who it was.
Yes,
Five
5 Reasons
Reasons
Sports
had
had
it.
the story first, I believe.
5 Reasons Sports had it first. Of course, it became a bigger deal when Shams put it out there that Tyler Herro of the Miami Heat has to undergo surgery on his left foot, sideline to start the 25-26 season. So as we talk about breaking through the East a little bit, having some competition maybe on that back end behind the Knicks, Cavs, Magic, and Heat, right here, though, Kyle, the Heat, or pardon me, who was the other team that we were talking? The Hawks. The Heat were in that Sixers range where we were talking about them a little bit. And you can
So
argue
my
best
question
player.
would be how long he's actually out for.
Yeah.
Because the Sixers don't play Miami until around Thanksgiving. So is this he's back start of November? Is this mid-November? I don't know if it'll impact any of their games. And I actually think in a weird way, if he misses a bunch of time here, but their other games come against Miami later in the season, it'll actually work against the Sixers a little bit because Miami's not a team that's going to throw in the towel generally. And so they would be in the periods of the season where other teams, I don't want to use the R word, RAMP to be clear.
Man.
I don't want to use that word.
We need to come to an official ruling here.
But
If
as
we're
other
allowed
teams,
to spell it.
as other teams are scaling down
Salary
a little
cap
bit and not
circumvention by
playing as
Kyle.
competitively late in the regular season, Miami could be playing catch up because of this. So
Yeah. Now,
you might get a feistier.
Let's not
Heat
forget
team
about the
later on
Norm
in the
Powell
year.
trade this
Right.
offseason. Norm Powell is now there. Andrew Wiggins is still there with Bam.
Although
So they
he
do-
sounds like he's a candidate to get moved. Andrew
before
Wiggins
the season.
Maybe not before. I know they've been talking with
I've
the
seen that,
Lakers. That
yes.
stuff's out
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
I think mid-season would be more my
But
expectation.
at least to start, for what we were saying about the early part,
Yeah.
Norm Powell, Andrew Wiggins, and Bam Adebayo.
So I haven't seen like any of the Miami writers really follow up on this. I only read the Shams report. Did they give any real detail of what the ankle injury was? Because like he just listed
Anthony
ankle
Chang,
injury.
who is he's Miami Herald,
Okay.
I want to say. He reported, I believe, that he was getting some form of injection. It's been something that's been bothering him from the middle of the offseason.
It just seemed like Shams specifically didn't give, like it was almost like a lower body injury. It was like Joel Embiid-esque in its vagueness.
So this is from Anthony Chang. I'm making sure I'm getting this right. The Miami Herald. He said, won't be available for the start of the season. The ankle foot impingement has been bothering him since the middle of the summer. He was receiving PRP and cortisone injections in recent weeks. He was trying to avoid surgery, but apparently it's been so uncomfortable that surgery was deemed necessary. So an impingement, I guess, is the official diagnosis on that. I don't know as much about that in the foot compared to all the naviculars and the Jones fractures and all the other wonderful things we've had to learn over the years.
It is wild, like covering this league. You've got to become a medical doctor. You've got to become a lawyer for the CBA. Like you've got to all these different hats that you get to wear.
It's funny because my wife is in the medical field, and obviously she runs 800 laps around me. But there will be times when something will. Normally I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, and I don't understand it. But if it's anything that's adjacent to like sports and orthopedic, I'm like, oh yeah, the recovery timeline on that's like 2.5 months or whatever it is. And she's like, what the hell's wrong with your brain? Thank you, Sixers.
All right, final one here. We'll go to an interesting one to end things off, non-basketball related, but a former NFL player, a longtime NFL linebacker, Shaq Barrett. He and his wife, Jordana Barrett, they have their newest kid, and funny video dropped from Jordana. She felt she needed to share on social media about her husband changing the kid's diaper. And it is really, really funny because as he's changing the diaper.
I can only see a small version of it.
As he's changing the diaper, look at this. Look.
Was that a stream there?
It was a stream, but it wasn't a stream of the
wasn't a YouTube stream.
It wasn't a fluid. It was the kid had diarrhea, and he jumped back and jumped out the chair. That was hilarious. And of course, you guys can check. I'll send it to you so you can check it out a little bit closer.
I'm good. I don't think I need to check that out.
You can't actually see anything.
I just love her dying.
You
like
see,
she dying.
was rolling when you hear the video. You saw it? Did you see it?
I didn't hear it. I just saw it.
When you see it and you hear her, she is rolling because of what happened. It is hilarious. And she dropped that one on Instagram, and it was really, really funny of how you really see nothing except for she decided to share the photo on the back of the chair. But you see absolutely nothing. You just see his reaction. You hear them talking while going through the diaper change, and he just leaps back and falls out of the chair. And
Poor guy.
He's like, I got to go take a shower. You finish this.
Truly hate to see it. I had a news and note for today that Bree and I talked about earlier.
Yeah, well, let's tell everybody that we're going into allphly.com overtime here. We thank everybody on the TV side, on the Fast Channel all week. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. We're headed over to allphly.com for the remainder of the show to see what Kyle has for us for this news and notes overtime on this Friday.
Devon, the 35th anniversary of one of the greatest movies of all time, Goodfellas.
Goodfellas. Look at that.
Love Goodfellas. I think it's probably I've been leaning into the Mount Rushmore a bit recently. I do think it's one of my favorite movies that's like it's in the desert island. Yeah. If you could only watch one or like bring a few things with you, I think it would be that.
Goodfellas. That
chopping garlic scene is one of the most inspiring cooking things that I've ever seen. It's in the middle of a mob movie. So wanted to shout out Scorsese, De Niro, Joe Pesci.
Classic.
Ray Liotta. Rest in peace.
Is that Take It If You're Stuck in the Desert movie? Is that one of them?
It's certainly, I would say it's probably in the top 10 to 15, probably quite comfortably. And it's so quotable. Like, how funny? Am I a clown?
Am I funny? Funny like a clown? Do I amuse you?
Yeah.
Joe Pesci is unbelievable.
He's incredible. Yeah.
And think about his range too, from doing stuff like this and Casino and so on. Then he's a Home Alone, My Cousin Vinny,
had
Lethal
a
Weapon,
run, man.
where he just does so many different things, and he's great in every role. So
He honestly might be
fantastic.
better in Casino. The scene, and that I talked about this with you recently. The one shot when they're in the desert and they're meeting up, and the whole shot is just De Niro's sunglasses, and you see the car and all the dirt the dirt and the sand, I guess, coming up is like a really awesome shot from that movie. And then Joe Pesci just comes out of the car and it's just like dropping F-bombs right away, and he goes right into he is like a true one of a kind.
Yeah, he is.
He is great. And another movie that he's in, when he was in The Irishman, I know a lot of people bounced off of that because it's like one of the longest movies
It's
of
very
all
long.
time.
Yeah.
But he's in a much more, he had not acted in 20 plus years, I don't think. And he was in a much more reserved, kind of quiet role. And it was interesting seeing him do that, because if he was going to be one thing, even if it was comedy or a mob movie or whatever, he was always very animated. So seeing him play a character like that was super interesting.
Charlie says his range, he's the same in every movie.
Go watch The Irishman, sir.
It's the different movies that I'm talking about, Chuck. Not the fact that, yes, he's Casino, Goodfellas. He's different in Lethal Weapon when he's with Danny Glover and Mel Gibson. He's different in Home Alone. So that's what I meant by the range is different, Chuck, but appreciate it. All right.
I just think about that desert scene. You make a big fucking spectacle of yourself. You're the guy who had to go on TV. He's just like screaming at De Niro.
Let's get ready
He's
to say
such a
goodbye
character,
for the
man.
week. Next week, we get back at it, talking some hoops here, live from the Xfinity Lounge, presented by Rothman Orthopedics and Ford. And right now, we got to get ready to say goodbye and say thank you to all of you, the world famous roll call.
And if you'll take a gander into the chat, I'm going to send a special emoji for our supporters club members. The roll call emoji, because it's roll call time, baby.
Nice.
That's exciting
it's
stuff.
officially there.
That's one of the things that you get when you sign up for that supporters club. See
Look at
Bree
that.
on the other end with the roll
The
call.
roll call.
I'm going to spam that at you guys as much as I can. Thank you, everyone, for being here today on a Friday. Love seeing you here to end the week, kick off your weekend, however you want to think about it and frame it. Thank you to Mark Jackson, to my girl Nona, to AA Ron,
What
to
up, Aaron?
Jess, to Martian Lynch, Win Forever, Lena Win.
Got to win forever.
We had someone named Rat in here today,
Rat?
which that was a first. So thank you to Rat
What up?
for checking in with us. Thank you to Eugene, to Joaquin,
What up, Joaquin?
to Ed Wright, Jeffrey Stewart, Yams, Mom's grandchildren. What's up to Mom?
Hey, Mom.
We got Val, we got Ramid, Theo,
What up, Mid?
our guy Marcus, SB Cole.
Look at all
We
the roll
have
calls.
Chuck and Charlie. And Charlie did not appreciate you calling him Chuck, Devon. So make sure you get it right next time.
My bad.
Doug Craig, B. Knight, Sean Ford. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, everyone who was here today hanging out with us. Thank you to everybody who was here all week talking about the Sixers. We are officially, by the way, 1 week away from Media Day. Next Monday, starting at 11 a.m., we will be live from, well, not live. We'll be in
there.
person. We will be at Media Day, getting all kinds of interviews, talking to the players, talking to Daryl Morey, talking to probably Nick Nurse, talking to everybody affiliated with the Sixers. We'll get some exclusives for you guys, some updates on everybody's health. That is next Friday, so prepare for that. We'll have tons of stuff for you. And then that lets you know we are a week away from things getting real. So get excited. We'll see you Monday, 3 p.m. Until then, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get notifications each and every time we go live. That bell has seen better days, apparently. And please hit the thumbs up button to say thank you to super producer Bree, who's always holding it down.
Not
during
enough.
roll call.
Not enough likes. We got to talk about that.
Bree's asked, hey, Bill on the Flyers show is always saying, I need likes to be satiated. Without them, I feel bad. I feel like a worse podcaster and person.
We got a lot of people in here.
We have much more people in here than have liked this video. Do it for Bree. Do it for the roll call
That's
emoji.
it.
Do it for some personal pride. You don't want to be beat out by those stinking Flyers people and Eagles people and the Phillies. Like, you're the Sixers gang. Show up and show out and do it for our super producer, our president of basketball operations, Bree. We will be back Monday at 3 p.m. Until then, stay safe, take care of one another. Goodbye.
See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.